forward 20 years for a second and consider that we've developed a new technology, a form of bracelet that's able to track our health as well as the locations we've been at. And the government, trying to ensure the safety of all people within their population, is telling everyone to wear the bracelet. Although this bracelet is great at helping us realize when we're sick without the symptoms, it also looks at the businesses we visit, the emotional reactions we have when confronted by police, or even what we act like in the eyes of a politician. And now my question to you is, would you wear that bracelet? So over the years, we've seen the impact that pandemics as a whole can have in upturning our social fabric. COVID-19 in this case is no different. We see that all of us trying to use Zoom for the first time, realizing the deep-seated need for human attention we have, and looking at the tragedy that is 3.6 million people infected by this disease, including millions more when you see those unemployed or put at risk due to essential jobs. But there's another factor we're not considering, another issue, which is the debate over personal security and privacy when it comes to this emergency across the world. So with the spread of COVID-19 and the multiple outbreaks it's prompted, many countries are now starting to consider using more personal, private surveillance laws in the interest of public health. To explain why this makes sense, let's look at our society a little bit differently for a second, as an ant colony. In an ant colony, all ants have the instinct of preserving the colony's well-being over their own well-being. This is why worker ants leave behind a trail of pheromones to tell other ants where they've been and what they're doing. So now when it comes to ants that are diseased, they will actually release a chemical that tells ants to take them out of the population for the well-being of the entire population. Now in this case, when you apply this to our world, this makes sense why Western liberal democratic countries are struggling between preserving the rights of privacy, liberty, and movement of their citizens and restricting them for the benefit of the colony. With COVID-19 being a disease spreading exponentially, fast data about who's getting a disease and where they are will be exponentially beneficial when it comes to restricting an outbreak. Let's consider the response of COVID-19 for South Korea, one of the countries extremely effective in curbing spread despite being very close to the actual outbreak. Now, South Korea used a variety of effective methods, one of the most controversial though being changing the law to allow the federal government to use big data as well as security footage in order to monitor where citizens were going. They would then give this information to private apps and websites to warn citizens to not visit a place that has been infected by a given patient. For example, a supermarket where a COVID-19 patient has traveled. In China, we've seen the usage of facial recognition technology and thermometer matching, but there's also the idea that we're using apps now, color-coded apps that assigns personal information, combines it together, and assigns a general color score that represents the health that you have. Now, even in Canada, Montreal police are now considering the use of cell phone signals to track those that aren't adhering to social distancing laws and contain them, even potentially through the use of violence. With all of this now, we've come to realize how beneficial technology can be in stopping the spread of the virus. But there's also the consideration of all of these issues that come into play when it comes to giving all this information up. For example, we don't understand who's getting this information, like what it's going to be used for, or how it's going to be preserved or protected or encoded at all. Now, what happens if this information puts us or our families at risk? What if it gets into the hands of for-profit companies that only use it for their own motives and not for our own well-being? What happens then if it gets into the hands of authoritarian countries who use it to justify their human rights abuses? Oh, all of this can be so scary, and I'm sure I don't want you to freak out. I really hope I didn't trigger your 2020 panic mode. That's not what I want to do here today. I want to just help you look at why surveillance is one of those things that can be both beneficial and detrimental in different ways. But most importantly, I want to help you realize your role as a citizen, all of our roles as citizens in controlling the government, in telling them what is okay, what laws they can pass, as well as controlling them when they go too far. Now, when it comes to our civil liberties, we need to understand what rights we have, and we need to use those rights in having protests and having civil action and in being active voters in controlling our government. We, after all, are the most important members of our colony. We are the worker ants, and as worker ants, we have that kind of power. Now, that's going to be an uprising when we all make the world a better place that the government will want. to be sure to look out for.